This is the Transformers Generations Legacy Evolution Deluxe Class Shrapnel. We have the second Insecticon for the Legacy line. Here's a quick look at the packaging. Evo Fusion. I picked up this figure from Robo. Let's get this bad boy out of packaging. And here is Legacy Evolution Shrapnel out of the box. The figure looks terrific. It's so G1 inspired. And at the same time, it's got that modern generation update to the figure. Much like Kickback, which I'll show off later, this figure has been sort of modernized. And yet, at the same time, it still keeps and it still has all the elements of the Generation 1 toy. It's not without flaws. I'm going to get to that later. But overall, I am very, very happy with this figure. Let's take a closer look at the details of this new Shrapnel figure. Head to toe, the figure stands at about 13 centimeters tall, or about 5 1/8 inches tall. For a comparison of how big this figure really is, here he is with a Voyager class. We've got the Netflix Siege Megatron, as well as a Deluxe class figure from the Legacy line as well. We've got Needlenose. So despite being a Deluxe class, he's still a little bit short than your standard Deluxe class sized figure. And here he is with Deluxe class Kickback. And I think they scale very nicely. Although he does seem a little bit smaller in scale, just by a little bit, compared to Kickback. And here he is with his predecessor for the Generations line. We have Legends class Shrapnel, and I'm glad they're able to use Shrapnel now, because Shrapnel was his real name in the Generation 1 cartoon. But for some reason, they couldn't use it for this figure. They had to rename him as Shrapnel. And here he is again together with Legacy Kickback, as well as the Generations Legend scaled Insecticons. And really, we're just missing Bombshell. And I hope we do get that figure named Bombshell instead of, I think this was Bomb Shock, I think. So Kickback, Shrapnel, and Bomb Shock. But now, thankfully, we have him as Shrapnel, the correct name, and hopefully we'll get Bombshell. Now, for this new Insecticon figure, he doesn't have any Energon weapons, which is actually a welcome relief for me. I wasn't a big fan of these Energon weapons, but he does have some really cool weapons, which we'll get to in a little while. So the figure is heavily inspired by the G1 toy, and at the same time, the cartoon aesthetic of the character on the old 80s cartoon. But instead of silver, we have gray plastic for the horns of the beetle, the stag beetle's horns, which is a shame. I wish they could have painted it silver, much like what they did with the weapon. The weapon was supposed to be done in chrome together with the horns, but unfortunately Hasbro decided to just mold it in gray plastic and paint this one silver. Interesting to note also is they've kept the cockpit, the gold plastic or clear sort of translucent plastic cockpit of the old Insecticon toy here in this aesthetic of this new figure, which is actually pretty good. It's a nice homage to that. Now, photos were courtesy of TF Wiki and Cybertron.com. The figure sports a fantastic sculpt. It's very streamlined. There's very little kibble. But one thing that really bugs me about the figure is this kibble right here. Now, I know they were going for that G1 accuracy, and I kind of wish they didn't make it too accurate. I mean, this is a Generations figure. They could have had some leeway, some poetic license to really just, you know, somehow shift and move these kibble a little bit backward. I mean, it is a Generation figure. They could do that to make it more cartoon accurate. But I don't know, maybe it was an engineering constraint. It's really a shame, because it really detracts from appreciating the aesthetic of the figure, because it just sticks out so much. I mean, sure, the parts do feel premium and all that, but the sculpt is just heavily ruined by this kibble, and I just wish there was a way they could have moved that, or have a hinge or a sliding a sliding piece right here just to move these things back, but I don't know. Maybe budget constraints prevented them from doing so. He has this really nice glossy, not a high gloss, but it's a glossy black finish on his torso. You got matte black plastic right here. Very awesome, very good quality plastic for purple, gray, black. I mean, this figure, much like most of the Legacy Evolution figures, they're just made of premium plastic. Very, very pleased with it. Nothing to complain about. The figure comes with several accessories. He's got his signature G1 gun, which is cool. He also comes with two other blasters that kind of resemble the insect's feet, and the instructions say to plug them here on the back. Now, obviously, you can have the figure hold them as pistols and blasters, so that's also cool. Now, here's the cool thing about this figure. Just like most of the Legacy Evolution figures, they have the Evo Fusion gimmick. And what this gimmick does is it allows you to combine the weapons to form a bigger weapon for the figure. And look at this, look at this. You combine all three weapons and it gives him a longer blaster rifle, like a sniper rifle, and he can use to take down enemy Autobots. Look at that. What a cool gimmick. Now, these blasters have these ports or pegs which are compatible with some blast effects. If you do have some blast effects from your Battle Masters and or for Cybertron Trilogy figures, you can actually plug them in. This one's a purple blast effect, and I think it fits very well with Shrapnel because he's got some purple pieces, and the weapons are purple too, so we could add purple blast effects right here and a couple more here. So yeah, a blast effect compatible. Articulation for Shrapnel. The neck is on a swivel, waist is on a swivel, the arms, they can go in and out, forward and backward. You got a bicep swivel, hinge elbow. Wrists can go in and out because of transformation. You can do the splits on swivel hinges on his hips. You go forward and backward. You got a thigh swivel. Hinge knees. The toes can go up and down. And they have the rocker tilt. Okay, so for just a sec, I'd like to talk about quality control issues for paint apps. And you can see on my figure, the visor, that red paint is suffering from scratches. I guess it's unavoidable because this part of the figure is exposed. There was a window, but there's no plastic, and you know it could have been hit or scratched, you know, during transport. So yeah, it's a shame. But it is nice that they've given us the red visor, which is cartoon accurate, instead of just making it all silver, just like the toy. Also, you will notice right here on the thigh, there are some splotches of purple paint, which is a little bit annoying. But overall, very pleased with the paint apps. The gun's painted nicely. You got the Decepticon faction logo right there. And again, like I said, that glossy finish on the torso. Transformation. You want to remove the weapons, set them off to the side. You want to do the head first. So you want to cover it up with these panels right here, much like the G1 toy, but instead of moving the pincers, these panels, they cover them up, they move separately from the pincers. Now the pincers or the stag horns, you can just position them like that. Rotate the waist 180, point the toes downward. You're going to open these flaps right here, and then you want to collapse the feet onto the thighs, or I should say the lower legs onto the thighs. You want to combine those lower legs together and tab them in onto the torso. There's some holes right there just underneath the waist where you tab them in. The fists, you can fold them inside the forearms. And the forearms are just going to tab on the side of the lower legs. You fold out the insect feet, and essentially, there you have Shrapnel, I was about to say Scrapnel, Shrapnel in his beetle alt mode. He's a stag beetle, I think, or a Hercules beetle. No, I think he's a stag beetle. And here are the claws, pincers. And if you remember on the show, they had these laser blasters at the tip. And you could, if you wanted to, just attach more blast effects. And you could just be blasting away at the Autobots like... Now, the instructions say to put these other weapons, the other blaster pistols right here. Like that. You could do it this way. That's also pretty cool. You can put some blast effects if you wanted to, or maybe you could rotate them so that they're not as obtrusive. They're well hidden. I think they form a little bit the legs of the insect in insect mode, so I thought that's pretty cool too. But either way, these blasters, they do fit nicely even in beast mode or insect mode. Now, the instructions say to put the main blaster pistol right here or here. That's exactly what the instructions say, but just like kickback, I think we can just plug it in right here. Maybe we can rotate it like this, so it's not too obvious, but I do prefer it facing forward so you can blast Autobots with it. And then you can put some blast effects right there. For comparison, here he is with kickback, also from the Legacy line, in beast mode or insect mode. They look great together, great scale. Maybe let me just get rid of the weapons so we can appreciate the insect mode better for both figures. Oh, and big thanks to everyone who's told me how to use the Energon weapons as a thorax in insect mode. That's what I did right here. Thank you so much for that tip. But yeah, they look great. Really takes you back to the 80s cartoon. And here he is with the Generations Legends Shrapnel, and you can see that he's more G1 accurate than this one. This one's not too bad. It just kind of feels more like an ant rather than a beetle. And just to appreciate his scale even further, here we have the Kingdom Black Arachnia. So he's a fairly huge, very nice, beefy sized deluxe in insect mode. Compared to in robot mode. Robot mode, he's considered, I would consider him like a small deluxe, much like Bumblebee. Black Arachnia, terrorize! Insecticons attack. To transform him back, just reverse the process. Transform, rotate, fold up, split. Open these panels. Split the horns, fold out the fists, plug back the weapon. There you have Shrapnel back in robot mode. And so some final thoughts on this Legacy Evolution Shrapnel. Well, the figure's pretty good. I really enjoyed this figure. I mean, I had a few complaints, particularly these pieces right here. I just wish they could have found a way to move it back. Didn't have to make it too G1 toy accurate. But I guess budget constraints and maybe constraints with engineering prevented them from doing that. So it's a shame. Other than that, the figure is absolutely perfect. I love the sculpt. The proportions are great. I love the weapons. I love the colors. Transformation was amazing. A little bit simplistic for some people, but for me, that's how Shrapnel transformed in the cartoon and in the toy, so I'm pretty okay with it. I love the colors. Plastic quality is absolutely amazing. This takes me back to the 80s cartoon, the G1 cartoons. I really enjoyed this figure, and I do hope we get Bombshell soon. This Shrapnel figure is going to get a 10 out of 10, despite my complaint about that kibble on the face covers. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think of this Transformers Legacy Evolution Deluxe Class Shrapnel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of my latest video reviews. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.